And this podcast is brought to you by the Arate Podcast Network. Please head to aratemedia.org to see all sorts of podcasts from our great friends, as well as if you want to start your own podcast, they can help you out with more information and resources there. That's aratemedia.org, A-R-E-T-E media.org. On with the show, Jordan.
On with the show, Justin.
Excellent. Welcome once again, everybody, to a new episode of the Spur of the Moment podcast. I never can take myself seriously when I do that. Welcome to the Spur of the Moment podcast. He's laughing his way through the intro. I am joined, as always, I am your host, Justin Spurr. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the incomparable Jordan, who's messing with his screen. But he's the right side up this time, which is nice if you're watching on YouTube. Which, why would you? It's a disaster on YouTube. The better version of this is on Spotify.
Sorry, my phone keeps popping out of this stupid stand.
Oh, we're going to have to get you a better stand one of these days.
One of these days, we will have to invest in that.
We'll have to invest in a slightly better stand. On today's episode of the highly organized and thought out Spur of the Moment podcast, we have some news, including apparently there's still DC Universe Online, I guess. There's gonna be a new Pirates movie. We're gonna talk about Joker 2. You're gonna hear some things you probably didn't know about Joker 2. They're making a Freaky Friday movie. I also apparently saved a story about, I'm guessing, Sonic the Hedgehog. I can't see what the rest of the title says. Anyway, and then later, we are gonna talk about some stuff based on a comic book. That's not Marvel or DC. Hopefully. I think I did pick a DC, but not the DCEU. So no surprise Batman versus Superman or The Flash. None of that's happening.
None of mine is Marvel or DC, no. So I stuck to the rules.
I went old school DC for some of it. So it's like DC, but like old DC. You know, when comic book movies sucked. But to start off with, we never talked about The Acolyte, I realized. The trailer for The Acolyte came and went.
The Star Wars trailer. Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm actually interested in that.
I appreciate that it's not in the Skywalker saga.
Exactly.
That's fresh and new and exciting. I think it takes place in the High era.
Yeah, High Republic. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's like a fairly untapped market in terms of like TV and movies. So yeah, it piqued my interest.
And it's like interesting because Star Wars kind of works in reverse because the technology could be like old long ago but still be like new. You can introduce new things and just be like, oh, it just disappeared. So like I heard that one of the characters has like a lightsaber that's also a whip, and I'm like, go ape shit, go nuts. This is the time where I'm like, make lightsabers weird. Make it so there's one that has like 5 blades on it. Like, just get weird with it, like, and be like,
you could say that the technology was lost. Or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, you can get away with whatever you want. Yeah, it's from a different era, and this is like a time where it's like, have as many Jedi as you want, have as many lightsabers, like, just go nuts.
Or like the other way you could explain it if you wanted to is say like this is the unrefined, the one that they ended up with is the most perfect ideal version of it, and these are all the unrefined steps that were in between.
Exactly. Yeah, it's being presented as like, oh, the Jedi are basically the antagonists. They're not bad guys, but like they're, because the protagonist is a Sith, they're the ones that they're kind of going against. And I guess it's gonna be a mystery. Like, who exactly the Sith is going to be like a mystery. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And yeah, it's from an era of this universe that we've never seen before, really.
Yeah.
Other than like comics.
Most importantly, it sounds different.
It sounds
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's like,
it sounds different while still allowing themselves to have the lightsabers and all the things that make Star Wars Star Wars.
Exactly.
So like, finally, like, maybe if you stop reusing the same 5 characters over and over again, you can have some fresh takes in there.
Exactly. And and it's like it's a space of the universe where you can do whatever you want. And it doesn't. I'm tired of them trying to squeeze Jedi into an era of the universe where there isn't any, just to tie it to some iconography. It's like, if you want to have a bajillion Jedi, introduce new character, or like, Andor, I don't know, maybe a controversial opinion. I know we share this opinion, but Andor just didn't interest me. There was just nothing about that story that was all that interesting. It's like, I've seen the Rebels versus the Empire. I've seen the little guy fight the big guy, but with lightsabers and with characters I give a shit about. Like it just, I don't know. Like
That's that's where
convince me to
that's
watch
where
Andor.
I've always said that I wanted to see something in, and this kind of falls into that it could work here, but I've always wanted to see one that was in the Old Republic where we could see both sides, not like one side where it's the Sith and they're like the subtle spy. I want both sides to be equal, get both my hands on screen here and see the two forces collide and have the big cheesy like lightsaber versus lightsaber, but it's equal Sith and
Yeah,
Jedi, and it's like it's instead of being like one all-encompassing side versus the small side, have it be the two big sides, and it's a war, and it's like and it's what stops. It's maybe the story of like where the Jedi learn not to be like that, and they stop being
yeah.
like warriors and turn more into monks. Like,
That's what I'm kind of. I mean, I'm really hoping. I would like someone to fix lightsaber fights because lightsaber fights they've gotten dull. Like nothing in Ahsoka remotely was interesting to me. Like say what you will about the prequels. Yeah, they're bad movies, but their lightsaber fights were way better. I mean, I think we can all agree on that, right? Even us people who are like those movies are bad.
yeah, part of it is I think the practical fighting was better back then, like the stunt work and stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays it just seems like they rely on CG a lot.
My thing, well, with the lightsabers, my thing with them now is they're not CG. In fact, the opposite. It's they're physical props that they've CGI'd over top of them, and they've done the big pipe ones, and so they're really heavy, and so they just don't look as good in combat, and they're being lit in real time because you can see the lighting effects on people's faces, and it doesn't really work. I preferred the one in the prequels where they were lightweight and they CGI'd the bulk of it on top of it because it allowed for better looking fights. There's no lightsaber fight in any of the new stuff that's very interesting
Well,
to me.
especially if these are beam swords, there shouldn't be weight
No, exactly. Shouldn't give the
at
appearance of
all.
weight.
Like
Yeah,
it should look like there is nothing, like it's just lightweight
yeah,
energy.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Anyway,
The Obi-Wan show managed to find some like interesting lightsaber stuff, but
workarounds.
yeah, it was a bit more interesting, but even then it was like this is dull. Like there's no flash like this is one of those things where you need stuff like flash. You need more flash, less substance. Where it's
I
like
think I think part of the reason too for me why I'm more interested in this show than I was in, for example, the Obi-Wan show. As much as I enjoyed aspects of the Obi-Wan show, he's not going to die or get captured. There's no
exactly,
stakes with
exactly.
this show, or like sure, maybe in Andor, that's where some of the pleasure can come in. Is that these aren't just like Obi-Wan or
Yeah, the characters who can
Han
die. Yeah,
Solo. They're characters who can die, and that adds some weight, I guess. I just didn't care about those characters.
yeah,
But like in this new show, you have no idea who's gonna live or die, other
exactly.
than and on top of that, because it's the High Republic era, technically they could have a cameo character in there if they wanted to. They could have a young Yoda.
Yeah, they can have Yoda show up. I think they've said that Yoda's. Or there's rumors that Yoda's in it. I can't remember if they've actually specifically
Because
said whether or not he was in it.
he exists back then, but it's
Yeah,
like a 200-year-old Yoda versus like a 900-year-old Yoda. So it's like you can have him and have him be like a completely different character.
I want him to like
And
just talk normally. I want him to show up, talk normally, and just be kind of a dick. Just be
I want him to show
just a
up.
real prick.
I want him to show up, talk normally, and be arrogant, like
Yeah,
very
just a
arrogant and young, and
real prick.
and then I want forever there to be this question with the audience of, okay, so at what point did he start talking weird, and does he do it just to
Yeah.
screw with
Yeah,
people?
yeah, that's exactly what I want. I want him to talk completely normally, and and like the entire series continue to hint at him talking weird, and just he never talks weird.
Like
You're like, when did that happen? I don't
like
understand.
he like you could totally do this thing, and it would be cheesy as hell, but you could totally do this thing where it's like you find out that he has a friend that whenever he's like mockingly making fun of the friend, like teasing the friend, he talks like that, and then in the show the friend dies, and ever since that moment he
What's
talks like that all the time.
What's funny is that the theory used to be that it was a species thing, but then they recently did an episode of one of their animated shows where they had Yaddle who talked completely normally. So it's It's just a thing Yoda does, and it's never explained why.
Or like another thing they could do is they could have it where he comes up against the Sith or whatever in the show, and she does like an evil past Sith thing that no Sith has ever done since or before, and it makes it so that he talks like that.
It fries his brain, so they're like, hey, he talks like that because he's a very severely brain damaged. That would be horrifying, but hilarious. That would piss off so many Star Wars fans. That would make so many.
It would be great.
It would be so. Oh yeah. Yoda. No, he's just severely brain damaged. He's basically a vegetable. That's why he talks like that.
Everyone else in his species is 1,000 times smarter than him. He's E.T.
It turns out he's the moron. Yeah.
He's E.T. That's why he and E.T. get along so well.
He's E.T. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That actually does interest me. I will check it out when it comes out.
Joking aside, I could believe that they might do a thing where they're like, yeah, the Sith person causes him to talk like that.
Perhaps, yeah.
I fully could see them doing that.
Ahsoka, nothing in it. There's like one shot in Ahsoka, which is really cool, when in the episode where she's fighting Anakin as a Sith, and like he walks through the steam and he does his like thing, and he just momentarily turns into Darth Vader. It looks badass.
Yeah. I've never seen that show. I couldn't bring myself to. I felt like I needed to watch the animated one first, and I just never got around to it. Yeah, it's on my list, and perhaps if something in this gives me a reason to, I might finally sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of have become disinterested in Star Wars. The last Star Wars thing I can't even remember the last Star Wars thing I genuinely enjoyed. I guess Obi-Wan, but in a like, it was bad, and I enjoyed it in that way, kind of way. But like, I haven't really, nothing's really gotten me like genuinely excited for Star Wars in a while.
Video games have. Movies not so much.
Some of the video games, that's true. Some of the video games
like I'm pretty stoked for the I'm excited for that Bounty Hunter one that's coming out.
Yeah, that one looks fun.
That one looks like a lot of fun. I liked the one where you play as Cal Kestis.
Oh yeah. I like the first one. The navigation was a nightmare. It was horrid.
I kind of dropped off on the second one, and I really should go back and finish that. But I like those ones. So like in terms of video games, I feel like Star Wars is, because the difference is that you get to be the Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's more interactive, and it's fun, and it's like, yeah, it's a colorful world, and I like seeing the world, and the world itself isn't the problem. It's the problem with the movies, quite frankly, I don't like a lot of the directorial choices that have been made.
Yeah.
It's not the world itself that I don't like. It's not the stories themselves necessarily. I mean, I question some of the choices, but like, it's not the world itself that I don't like. It's the movie choices that have kind of put me off of it. So I like the games.
My thing with the modern, it's so weird because like video games with Star Wars will be like, here's the old era, and here's all the shit that that's been well established in a external way, where like, oh yeah, this is how we participate in this world outside of the movies. But with the modern Star Wars, they don't know how to do that. So like the games pretend these characters have had more of a cultural impact than they have, and that they're cooler or scarier than they are. So like when I played Battlefront 2, there's a section where you get to be Kylo Ren that's 1,000 times cooler than anything they ever did in the movies with him. Where it's like all these characters pretend like they're scared of this character, but the movies never give you a reason to feel that way about him. They do about Darth Vader, they very much do about Darth Vader, but they never do with Kylo Ren. So they want to pretend he's like the new era's Darth Vader, but he's just not. And it's like,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean, though, where I say in the video games, for whatever reason, are capable of capturing things that the movies just can't.
Yeah. I don't know, and I don't know why. I don't know.
It's something that I've noticed the past little while, is that, in my opinion, anyway, maybe this is a controversial opinion, the games have been 1,000 times % better than any of the movies or shows.
Yeah. None of the shows have really. They feel too small. Like for me, once they started being like, hey, thing you recognize, they stop being interesting. Because the thing I recognized, I didn't really give a shit about. Like, I don't care about any of Rebels. I never liked that show. And like, it's like, oh yeah, it's bad CGI Luke Skywalker. Just, I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care about it. That's
That's
why,
why I say, yeah,
to
that's
tie
why
it
I
all
say I'm
together,
excited for this new one.
yeah, I'm excited for the new one. Because it's like, oh, at least they're trying something different. And it's like,
They're
hey, you
stepping
can,
for me it comes down to put it into the most basic simplest way. It's like, okay, it's the Star Wars galaxy, but we've only been looking at Coruscant, and now with this show it feels like we get to see the actual
yeah.
galaxy,
And it's like, you
like
can
a
do,
different corner of the
yeah.
galaxy.
And you can do thing you recognize and like still do something new with it. And it's like, yeah, this is thing I recognize. It's lightsabers still, and it's like laser beams, and it's like, yeah, it still looks like Star Wars. It's just we're doing something different with it. Um,
Yeah.
but so remember how like they keep joking about making Freaky Friday 2 with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis?
I saw a thing about that today, and I was like, why? Who was asking for this?
They're
They're
making a second one, and they
it's
got a writer
it's
and a director.
I mean, it's a little late. What's it gonna
I
what's it gonna be? Is it gonna be like now Lindsay Lohan is a parent,
yeah,
and like her daughter switches places with both
absolutely.
the grandmother? Like there's two daughters, and they both switch places with the mother and the grandmother.
I'm guessing. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine they're gonna do Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis swap again. But yeah, Lindsay Lohan will have a kid. And she'll swap with the kid. I don't know how they're gonna get Jamie Lee Curtis in there. I don't know who she's gonna swap with. But yeah, that's probably how this is gonna play out.
That's why I said two daughters, because I was like, then they both can switch with one of
I
the daughters.
guess. But yeah, you're just gonna have to find. Yeah. Or conversely, you go totally 180, and it's a son. She's got a son. Like, I could see maybe them going in the direction of doing something similar to the family switch, where it's a family that swaps. It's just about who does Jamie. Because yeah, why do you bring Jamie Lee Curtis back if she's not gonna switch? Who's she gonna switch with? I mean, yeah, I guess Lindsay Lohan, or maybe you do it where it's like,
At that point, I could see it's like it's a curse or something where all four, like there's four family members, and all four of them get swapped, and then you can have it where Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis switch again, but it's not because of anything they've done.
yeah, because it's like they already learned the lesson. There's no I mean, unless you make the bit about how like Lindsay Lohan's like, I'm a better parent than you, and it's about learning to be a better parent. Maybe, I mean, the only other thing I could think of is they bring back the love interest, Chad Michael Murray. They bring him back, and him and Lindsay Lohan are married, and instead of a daughter, they have a son, and this dad and the son swap. And then yeah, then Lindsay Lohan, and then that's
I
the only
just
thing.
still I don't
Otherwise,
see.
you're right. I don't
why
know. What do you do with
I,
this?
I just don't see why you bring back Jamie Lee Curtis at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you up top. Why make this? Who's this for?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't
Like, don't
understand
get me
it.
wrong, I enjoyed that movie back when it came back out in like what 2001.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
I watched this recently. You would think I would know that. I don't know.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
I want to say 2001, 2002. Yeah, I don't know.
2003.
It is 2003. Huh, there you go.
So I was pretty close, pretty spot on.
So Sonic 3, the director said that they finished production on Sonic 3, which means, wow, that didn't take very long. They didn't. These movies are fast. They don't take long to make.
I mean, it helps, I guess, probably that like they made the Knuckles show, so they probably did a lot of the same stuff at the same time.
You're probably right. Yeah, that's coming out next month, I think.
Because like that would be why, for example, in the first, we presume only first and potentially last episode, you have the people who played Sonic and Tails who are there,
Yeah.
probably because they did that scene probably on one of the days when they were filming the Sonic
Well, I
3.
mean, it's easy that they're CGI characters, so yeah, like that's why a lot of pre-production can happen.
I meant like the voice stuff though.
Oh, the voice stuff. I mean, your voice stuff is easy. You can do voice stuff in your garage. But no, that's the reason why this can go so fast is because a lot of it involves CGI characters, and they were on a different union than the animators and stuff, not the CGI characters themselves. But They could film a lot of B-roll and a lot of just footage of backgrounds to CGI the characters into because it didn't require actors. So they were filming while the strike was going on. So
Oh,
they're like way ahead of a lot of productions, like way
got
ahead.
it.
But there's a
Got
lot
it.
of people don't. There were people weren't sure if like James Marsden was in the Sonic 3 or he's not in the show. People don't think he's in the show, which I don't think he's either because he's not in the trailer. And they were concerned that that meant he wasn't going to be in Sonic 3, but he said he just got back from filming it. They just finished filming it. So yeah, I'm
Cool.
excited for that still. That's gonna be
That would be
interesting.
fun.
That will be fun.
I enjoyed the first two. I'm gonna have to look into finding a way to watch the Knuckles show.
Yeah, same. I'm interested in that. I mean, it just kind of looks like it's the first movie, but whatever. I like
I,
the first
I
movie.
I don't care. I like Knuckles. I like the first
Um,
movie. I could be down for that.
apparently, huh, interesting. Apparently they're making a new Chucky movie, and it's gonna continue off of the show, which is interesting, because the show got weird. I kind of I did.
How do you make it? I'm sorry. I'm aware that there was a show, but how exactly do you make a show about a killer doll? Does he
He
does he murder a person every episode? Is it like each episode
no. I haven't
is
watched
it
it.
like
I want to watch it. I always say I want to watch all the movies before I watch it though. But basically, it takes place. Oh, okay. The last two or three Chucky movies are kind of they because Chucky became a horror comedy kind of series like Bride of Chucky and Chucky Seed of Chucky are more comedy movies, and so they brought the character back as a sort of more serious horror character with a cult of Chucky and asylum of Chucky, and the show takes place after that for reasons I don't know because I haven't actually seen the show. He winds up with a family and it goes back to him pretending he's a doll and he's got like an evil plan and it continues off of those movies and it eventually from what I understand he gains the power in the later seasons to like spread himself into multiple Chuckies. So in like season 3 there's like multiple Chuckies and there's different Chuckies and there's a Chucky who's inside the body of a girl and then yeah it's really weird and convoluted. But in the latest season, what confuses me
okay?
about this movie is in the latest season they added the twist where now Chucky is aging. His doll body is aging like a regular human being, and so now he's like an old man Chucky doll. So I'm like, I don't understand if this is going to continue
That's
off of this
weird.
Series.
series. And yeah, there's one scene I saw on TikTok where he's like at the doctor, and the doctor's like checking his prostate. He's like, cough for me, please.
That's weird. That's a weird sounding
Yeah,
show.
it's
But
apparently really good, and I like Chucky. So, but I've always said I wanted to watch all the movies before I did. I think I've seen Cult of Chucky, and it was pretty good. I like him more as a horror comedy character than a straight horror character because after the first one, he stops being scary. In my opinion, I don't think Chucky's very scary, and I think that's part of his charm. I think he tries to be scary, and it's like yeah, the minute you know he's a doll who walks around, he's decidedly less scary because it's like yeah, just kick him in the face. Does he
I
have
mean,
the
I suppose if you're one of those people like Shane from Smosh who are afraid of dolls, I could I guess I could see how the movie might be scary, but I'm not
maybe?
afraid of dolls.
Like those
So
movies never. I mean, to be fair, it's been a minute since I've seen them. But as far as I recall, those movies never make the case that he has the proportionate strength of a man. So as far as I know, he's just got the strength of a doll. I could kick a doll in the face pretty easily. But I mean, I could be wrong. He might have the proportionate strength of a man. I'm not terribly familiar with that franchise. No, but I hear the show's good. Yeah, I just don't know how you do. I thought when I pulled up this article that it was a clean reboot. And I know that they've tried to do a clean reboot before, and it wasn't very good. Because they basically said Chucky is now a rogue. It was basically small soldiers. It was small soldiers. He was a toy that had a rogue AI that
got
went
it.
crazy and was murdering people. And it was Mark Hamill did the voice, and it was like not nearly as good because he lacked all of the personality that makes that character enduring. Like what makes that character enduring is his weird personality and the fact that he's crazy.
Right, right. He's one of those characters. He, she, Chucky.
Chucky, yeah.
He. It has always been one of those characters where it's like I'm aware of him mostly because shows parody and make fun of him.
Yeah.
But I'm not overly familiar with his franchise.
Yeah, it's the same thing with a lot of people with Friday the 13th. They understand the guy in the hockey mask. They're just not in the chainsaw, and they're not familiar with the rest of it. Same idea.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
cultural icon, and his movies are dumb, and they're really peak 1980s and 90s. And 2000s.
Yeah.
Pride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky are very, like, peak 2000s. Did you? Oh, see, it does say shooter. No, yes, PvP shooter. So I don't know, but anyway, you did see that trailer, the Marvel Rivals?
I watched about 5 seconds of it. It didn't really. I don't know. I had read that it was like an Overwatch, but with Marvel, and I'm not a big Overwatch person, so I kind of immediately passed on it. It's one that I'm aware of, but I didn't fully watch the trailer.
I'm a little more interested in it. I watched. It's weird because it says PvP shooter, but the gameplay was third person. Like you're playing as the Hulk gameplay I saw. It just kind of looked like a reskinned version of the Marvel Avengers game that everyone hated. Except for now you're fighting superheroes. So I like this looks like it's just been reskinned from that other game. I will say there was some interesting stuff like looking like playing a Spider-Man's kind of fun. Doctor Strange is one of the characters, and there's a pretty cool bit where Spider-Man instantaneously walks through his portal and winds up across the battlefield. Like that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Interesting.
I'm not interested in it if it's a first-person shooter. I'm more interested in trying it out if it's a third-person action game.
I mean, if it's like an online arena type thing, I will never get into that. I'm not into those kind of games.
No, I can't. I don't have the time or patience to get good at those kind of games for them to be fun. But yeah, it's one of those things where if it was like if it came out free to download, I would play it just to see what it's like.
If it was on PlayStation Plus and I could give it a shot for free, or if it was like one of the monthly ones or whatever, yeah, I'd try it out. Yeah, but otherwise, I'm not really looking to drop money on it.
Yeah, no. I'll keep my eye on it, but otherwise, yeah, no, I'm good. But people are real excited for it. I couldn't tell you why, but. Did you ever watch the Bad Guys? The DreamWorks movie, The Bad Guys?
I don't recognize the name.
Oh, I remember I told you should, because it's good. You should if you haven't, because it's a good movie. And at one point it was on Crave, but they're making a second one.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're making a second one, which is good, because that movie, again, was good. Yeah, apparently they're releasing DC Universe Online's getting a PS5 release.
I saw that it was going to come to the PlayStation. It's basically just a port, but
like why? Why? That thing still has servers up? That's incredible
apparently.
To me. People are still playing it.
The question why? Because people are still paying for it. That's the reason why.
Yeah, but why? Why are people? I mean, I liked it, but not that much.
I didn't think it was that good of a game to begin with, so I don't really.
But didn't you get to a crazy high level at one point? Weren't you at least level 30?
I mean, perhaps. Shut up. Maybe I paid for it. Maybe I didn't. The world need never know.
Well, I mean, you paid for it when it first came out. I mean, we paid for a lot of these MMOs when they first came out. Like we paid for that one, and
I paid for that one partially because I got to do the beta for that one, and I wanted to see what the final product was. But
I'm talking in the free version. To be fair, like you re-downloaded it like a while later.
I did a while later because a friend came over, and we made characters and stuff, and it kind of got me back into it a little bit.
Yeah, because I remember it was the PlayStation 4. I remember you were playing.
It was on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it was like the free version. You got super far into it. I was like, wow, you are really committing to this.
Yeah, I did. Maybe I'll download it again.
I mean, it wasn't an unfun game. I might too. I always say I'm gonna get back into it whenever it was
it had the same problem that a lot of MMOs had, where it was like. I would find myself playing it, and enjoying it, but it's an MMO. You're meant to play it with people, and so it's hard.
Yeah.
Playing it single player, playing any MMO single player is difficult because
Yeah.
that's not how those games are
You,
intended
you,
to be
you
played.
hit a point where you need to find a group of people in order to like beat a
And
thing or get through a
so,
thing or yeah, I know
but
what you mean.
especially playing on the console version, nobody had mics. You'd group up with people. Nobody was talking. Nobody was like, there was no like chat or talking or discussion. It was just you group up with a bunch of like essentially NPCs because as far as I'm concerned, there's no that I'm not talking to anybody. I don't know anything about them. They might as well just be NPCs,
Yeah.
AI. Like
Yeah.
it equates to the same thing. So I just found at a certain point, like I hit the end game where you're doing raids and stuff, but like you're not doing raids with any communication or things that make it easy to get through it. And so there's a lot of death, and you hit a certain point where it's like, I'm kind of done.
Hmm. So apparently they're making a new Ghostbusters animated series for Netflix, and apparently it's almost done, or at least they're almost ready to show off stuff. Which I'm like,
So is it like a X-Men 97 where it's continuing the original, or is it like a new series based off of the new adventures of the new people? And
I have no idea. I was trying to read to see if the set doesn't seem to have any indication. I would guess probably it's continuing off of the new stuff, but maybe it's a continuation off of the old series. I don't know why you would. I would do a new thing personally, but
I
that's
would
just me.
also do I would also do like a new like Netflix version of Voltron based thing where it's
Yeah.
like nice and bright and shiny.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of these was like, oh, you can franchise it. You could franchise the idea of Ghostbusters. Just be like it's Ghostbusters 5, 6, 7, 8 from
Ghostbusters Japan.
yeah, or something.
And yeah, you turn it into like a full anime where it's like there you really lean into it. And they
But
have
I
like
mean,
suits and mechs and like
I mean
it
that would be
goes
ridiculous.
goes full Japan. They have a ghost fighting suit where they go Super Saiyan.
Jordan. That was last week. That was last week. So you need to let that stuff go. It's time to
No,
move
I
on.
want to go. I'm still in Japan.
I want to go back to Japan. I want to go back to talking about guys in suits fighting monsters. But I have no idea what this could be. I mean, if I were to do it, I would do, yeah, where it's like, it's another bunch of kids at a random, like Philadelphia, Ghostbusters Philadelphia or something. But I don't know. So they've confirmed, the new Ghostbusters. Oh, Ghostbusters! I got Ghostbusters on the brain. Pirates of the Caribbean, the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie will be a reboot. They're not doing a sequel, which means no Johnny Depp, which means good. Good. That's good. Good.
I mean,
Everyone just got.
on the one hand, I agree, no more Johnny Depp. On the other hand, at that point, I'm like, well, look who just became redundant. That series doesn't work without Johnny Depp, and I don't think it works with Johnny Depp at this point. I think we need to just let it rest for 10, 20 years
That's what
and
I
then come
said.
back to it.
Like, it's weird that everyone just developed this collective amnesia where they forgot the last two ones were bad. They were bad movies.
I wouldn't even just say they're bad. They're forgettable. Clearly, they're forgettable because nobody remembers they're bad.
Nobody remembers that they're bad. Nobody remembers that Johnny Depp was having his lines fed through an earpiece. Nobody remembers that they introduced boring Elizabeth and Will stand-ins that nobody remembers.
And so I'm just like, can we not?
Can we
Can we
not?
not?
Can we
Can we
not?
just? Can we just not?
Can we
Let's
just?
make a it's a small world movie instead. That's not a good one. It's just the first one that came to mind. Space Mountain. Let's
Let's
do
make
a Space Mountain
let's do a
movie.
Space Mountain
Big
movie.
Big Thunder Railroad. Let's do that one.
Let's do that. Let's just not do Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's not.
Like
Let's just not.
let's not.
Let's not.
Let's not.
Come on.
Heck, let's make like a Oswald Mickey Mouse team up movie where like
Uh,
you know they reunite for the first time in 75 years and let's just don't do that. Don't do Pirates of the Caribbean.
let's just not do Pirates of the Caribbean, okay?
For at least like enough that the Johnny Depp version leaves people's psyche.
Yeah.
and we can just do like a actual fresh reboot.
I mean, I don't know. Much like cowboy shit, pirate shit. I like those movies in spite of the fact they're about pirates, not because of it.
That's fair.
I've never been a pirate. The life of piracy has never really
Yeah, you
interested
don't
me.
like pirates, you don't like cowboys, you don't like zombies. Man, you are really unpopular amongst the video crowd, the film
No,
crowd.
no, I don't like any of that stuff. I've never. Well, that's not true. There have been westerns I liked, and there's been the occasional zombie movies I liked, but I typically like them in spite of the fact that they're about zombies or cowboy stuff, not because of it. I've never seen a cowboy movie I liked. Anyway, they announced it, or this leaked, I guess, last week. We didn't really talk about it. Joker 2. We've talked about how, I don't know if we've talked about it in our private lives, but Joker 2 is going to be a musical. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, you think you've brought that up before, and I don't get it, and I no.
I look, in the sense that it's a Joker movie, it kind of makes sense that it would be insane and not make any sense. It'd be a little bizarre. I get it from that perspective. I
Sure,
also
but that's not what they were going for with the first one. Keep it consistent with
I don't
the way
disagree
that
with I don't disagree with that. I just think it's funny because it's gonna. I mean, you know me. It's just this such peak Joker energy because it's gonna make people so mad. They're gonna be so mad that it's a jukebox musical and it's gonna be made out of entirely existing songs. And hold on. Tell me what you think
so,
of
so
that
it's
while
so
I
it's
go to the Joker.
basically across the universe, but with the Joker.
Yeah, it's across the universe. It's Rock of Ages. It's um,
Third option.
it's oh no, I got one more. One you haven't seen, but it's Moulin Rouge. Hold on, I'm trying to stall while okay, here we go. So these are the songs that are apparently in it. Come on, come on, come
Come
on.
on, come on,
Load faster.
come on. Do the thing. I'm trying to stall here, man.
It's not
Gotta keep
showing.
the people
It's
engaged.
not showing me the list, Jordan. Damn
Well,
it! Why is it
okay.
not showing me the list? Okay, some of these are actually interesting. Hold on. Okay.
So how about that weather, eh?
How about that? Okay. Uh,
Have you heard anything about the Knicks lately? They're a football
this is
team,
really friggin' annoying. Uh,
baseball. Uh,
Friday.
so
Jukebox musical. Entertainment. Yeah, one of the songs is "That's Entertainment" from the movie The Bandwagon. Oh, okay, whatever. So some of them are House of the Rising Sun, New York, New York.
New York, New York, it's a hell of a town.
Damn it, I can't find it. Anyway, some of them were interesting. That's all you need to know. This didn't work out. This was a failed bit. Okay, sometimes the bits they don't work. But yeah, with that, that has been a weird ending to the news. Um, and with that, we move into the sponsor of today's section, which of today's episode, which I think Jordan, I think.
He does that sometimes.
I think I might want to travel a place, okay? Let's say I wanted to do that. Let's say I wanted to go somewhere. Who could people contact if they were a little stressed out about it, if they needed help, if they needed assistance?
Well, they could definitely contact Flight Center by Susan's.
Yes. And how might they do that, Jordan?
Clicking the link in the description below.
And that's right. And she can
And
help you do what exactly, Jordan? What could she help you do?
I mean, she takes stress off of travel. She books things like hotels, flights, cruises. She does package deals, destinations, all of the above. She does.
And just for fun, George, just for fun. Let's say you wanted to use her to say maybe deliver someone a gift for some sort of award that they may have won. How what other link could they click in our description? Where could
Well,
they
I
go?
mean, if they wanted to send an award, they could definitely check out trophysmack.com. Uh,
Trophysmack.com.
which if they click our link in the description, then they don't get a discount, but they do get to go check out trophies, belts, rings, wall art, stuff for people that have lost as well. They do They do fantasy sport league
Absolutely.
trophies. They do regular trophies. You name it, and if it's trophy related, they probably do it.
And it looks good. There are good, convincing trophies that you absolutely could probably take on a plane with if you travel with Flight Center with Susan. So that's Flight Center with Susan and Trophy Smack. I've decided to do this in the last possible minute. They're both very kindly chose to sponsor the episode of the podcast, and we thank them. I
We
think
thank them.
I think we should move on from
And
this
and
amazing.
you and you will thank them both too for their awesome trophy and travel booking ability.
Exactly.
Hashtag nailed it. Hashtag stuck the landing.
Stuck the hashtag Jordan totally saved this. Hashtag
on
we
on
definitely stuck the landing.
on with the show, Justin.
On with the show. Okay, it's rapid fire. We actually have rapid fire this week, everybody. We didn't do rapid fire last week, and I can't remember if I explained why. But it turned out it was because we did an hour-long discussion on a Japanese show for a video that nobody watched. That's not true. 2 people watched it. So, everything works out in the end, Jordan. Everything works out in the end. What is your first?
Everything is person.
What is your first rapid fire?
Big Hero 6.
Oh yes, I thought you said you didn't hit any Marvel ones, Jordan.
Well, I meant for my actual picks.
Oh, that's fair.
Rapid fire doesn't count.
That's
It's
okay.
it's rapid fire.
It's not an MCU one, so it's close enough.
Ba la 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 la.
Wink. No, that movie's good. It's apparently a very
Um,
faithful adaptation of the movie or of the comic book as well. It's not super different.
really,
Yeah,
really, it's
from
cute. I like it.
to my knowledge. I really want to watch. I really want to watch. I keep saying I'm gonna, and then I never do. The shorts where it's 3D, and it's Baymax, and he's going around town helping people.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one, but
I
I did.
wanna.
I at one point I watched the show, the 2D animated one.
Didn't you try to watch it and it was stupid legs, so you stopped watching it?
Uh, I don't remember if I finished it.
I've
Anyways,
never watched it.
not the point of this rapid fire. We're talking about the OG movie, which is fun. He upgrades people. There's hearts, there's love, there's tears, there's emotion. It's great. It's fun. What's your rapid fire, Justin?
My first one was The Mask, the Jim Carrey movie, The Mask, which I still like. I like that movie. Used to scare the pants off of me as a child. I still maintain there are elements of it that are just straight up scary. It at one point.
Somebody stop
Oh, when
me.
he puts the mask on for the first time, he looks up into the camera. Oh man, it still gives me the willies. Um,
We have a comment today from Arete Media. Bought my ticket for Godzilla versus Kong tonight. Am I wasting a Saturday night?
you are not. You as a okay, Jake. You as a wrestling fan. We'll get into this very quickly. We'll take a bypass. We were going to talk about it anyway. We saw it. We saw it yesterday, and you as a wrestling fan. I don't want to give anything away, but it's basically like a great tag team wrestling match. Like it's like a real. Would you agree? Like it's like
I definitely would.
yeah,
There's without getting into we will do spoiler free.
yeah.
Without getting into any spoilers, it's fun. There's dumb moments for sure. There's things where it's like, okay, but overall, I think it's an enjoyable. If you're a Godzilla fan, and a King Kong fan, more Godzilla fan, there's definitely a lot to like.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't like. It's not Godzilla -1. Like it's
No,
not
no,
that. It's not
no.
anyone going in. I know there's gonna be people who go into it thinking it's gonna be that. I don't know why you would, but it's not gonna be that. It really reminds me of like those real old school. I think I compared it to the Showa era Godzilla, where he's like doing the move where kicks the guy in the face while like scooting on his tail, like
Yeah.
or like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's got that kind of energy. Like there's a moment which I referenced in if you saw my
Uh,
TikTok video. I referenced it where Godzilla does a move, which is the most amazing thing Godzilla has ever done in one of these movies.
Arete Media says, if Godzilla and Kong 3D, the bad monster, I'm there for it.
Um, he definitely like I don't want to again I don't want to give it away, but Godzilla absolutely does a pro wrestling move on another character, like straight up. Like it was like watching a pro wrestling match. I'm not even right. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like it sounds like I'm making
I would
this up, but I'm not.
I would say yeah, he does a wrestling move without getting into the details. That being said, it's not a perfect movie.
Oh
There's
God,
definitely
no.
I have notes, I have things to
Yeah.
like that I could say, but
We at one point I was like,
overall, honestly, for me, part of the problem that I had, and I've had this with the past couple movies we've watched, is it's really, you made a TikTok about this,
yeah,
but it's really hard to focus in on the movie and enjoy it when the theater etiquette has become so abysmal.
yeah, and it's like,
Like
man,
it
I don't want to be like I'm trying to do this for content. I'm important, but like, yeah, man, it's hard to focus when a kid won't stop jibber jabbering in your ear.
well, even ignoring that, it's just I like anyone else have paid a lot of money to have this experience. I'd like to be able to enjoy the experience.
Right, right.
So I guess the point is that from now on we might be going to the VIP a lot more, where there
Yeah,
will be no children or teenagers.
yeah,
Arete Media says it's definitely giving off some primal rage vibes.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's like human people. I mean, me and Jake talked about this on the episode I did for his podcast. But we talked about how people don't really seem to get like they complain about the human characters a lot, and the human characters in this movie exist purely to do and explain Godzilla shit.
Oh, they're a
That's
framing
it.
device.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Characters are there to say exposition and explain to you the Godzilla shit because the characters don't talk. Even though they could, you could put subtitles on it and have it so they talk. You could if you wanted to.
I mean, yeah, especially like the Kong character who
Yeah,
does knows and I don't feel bad saying this because this was in his movie. He does sign language.
yeah. Well, that was a plot point in the last one was he knew sign language.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like yeah, he
Um,
could talk. That's my one thing.
like
I do wish Scar King
and
could talk.
and like in moments where he does sign language, you could just tell us what he's saying.
Yeah,
Like I almost wish I almost would be interested to talk to a person that knows sign language to see if they can figure out like if a person with sign language could decipher what is being said in those scenes.
probably. I mean, it depends on how good the sign language is. I suppose. I'm not sure. I don't know sign language. I know a little
I
bit.
I, I know I would be interested to talk to someone that could do that.
Yeah, yeah. But no,
Uh,
otherwise, yeah. Don't go in. Yeah, again, don't go in expecting Godzilla -1. It's not Godzilla
uh,
-1.
Arete says Godzilla 1 is still the goat, and I'm
Yeah.
worried that the movie will affect my impression. I can't read that part under there. I think it says the impression of Godzilla X Kong 2.
Um. If yeah, no, I wouldn't go into it expecting it to be Godzilla -1. That is probably the best Godzilla movie of all time. Like, just, I mean, like it always sounds like exaggeration when I say that, but it's the first one. Like I say, people shit on the American ones for having boring human characters, but the Japanese weren't nailing that. Like, there's never really been a movie where you truly care about the human characters. Godzilla -1 is the first one. But yeah, if you go into it, I would say go into it expecting like something from like the old school Japanese. Not like I'm not talking the first one. I'm talking that era where these movies got silly. That's where we're at. We're at the it got silly. It's gotten silly kind of era.
In response to your comment about the -1 being the greatest of all time, which I'm not disagreeing with. I want to preface this with that. I just want to I want to I guess bring up the point that they're very different styles. Like
Yeah,
that one is supposed to be like a serious art house style film of Godzilla, and this is like sugar. Like
yeah.
this is like your superhero movie
Oh, for
version
sure.
of it. This is big and dumb and like over the top.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's not to me. It's like comparing apples to oranges.
yeah,
Like yes, they're both Godzilla, but one is like the anime version of Godzilla, and one is like the like
yeah.
super serious version.
Well,
Like
I mean,
you know.
Godzilla exists. Godzilla has been around long enough. He exists in those two flavors. You have the. I mean, the Godzilla -1 isn't the only super it takes itself seriously Godzilla movie. I just think it's the best one. The first Godzilla is very super serious and it's really good. The first Godzilla movie is really good. But you do have your silly ones in the middle there.
Arete Media says it did win an Oscar.
It
Yeah,
did win an Oscar.
it did,
Yeah, yeah.
and it absolutely deserved it. It was a
Oh, for
fantastic movie.
sure.
When I bring up that point, I'm not downplaying how good of a movie that was.
Yeah, yeah.
And Arete says you're totally right. I'd wager to say younger people that love Godzilla X Kong would probably find -1 boring. Yeah, I would, I would,
Probably.
I would, I would. If not boring, I would say scary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Younger. I mean, this is what I'll say. I think the younger Godzilla fans, because yeah, we talk about the young kid behind us. He was into it, man. He loved it. He was on the edge of his seat. There's a moment where Godzilla did something cool, and he was like, "Wow!" Like he was just having a great time. So like I think that's the kind of stuff that the kids are into, like the King Kong versus Godzilla, the silly stuff. And yeah, I think that you can. We live in a world where you can have both. You can have your like your Godzilla -1s and your Shin Godzillas, and we can have our goofy American version. But to say
I agree.
the American version is goofier than the Japanese version, or that it's different. Like I made a TikTok that went not viral, but it's done well, where I said that yeah, people who say that the American version isn't Godzilla or doesn't get Godzilla is wrong, because it does. It does. It just
I
it's
would certainly say this version does. Like maybe not the one that was in New York and it was like
no, not that version.
that
No.
version doesn't necessarily, but this version I definitely think
Yeah, the
does.
MonsterVerse version does. Like that from
Yeah.
back to 2014 Godzilla. Like those ones all get Godzilla. Like that is what Godzilla is. And anyone who says
Yeah.
otherwise hasn't really had a deep enough experience with I hate gatekeeping like this. But I would encourage you to go watch more Godzilla movies. Is what I would say to you. Not a negative you. I just haven't seen enough but I mean, go watch more Godzilla movies because
Go
what you'll
throw yourself into the culture and
yeah.
really dive in like
Yeah.
Godzilla would.
Yeah, and you don't have to watch
You
like all
know,
38 of them, but maybe watch one or
I
two of
can't
them.
I can't make the joke that I want to make.
Yeah, best not.
Um, Areche says we can all agree it's better than the first American Godzilla movie.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes, we can.
yes, we can. That movie's
Yes, we
bad.
can.
But I said this to him on his podcast. It did yield a pretty good cartoon.
You're not wrong. I
Yeah,
remember enjoying that
yeah,
cartoon.
that cartoon's pretty good. So take what you will, leave the
Kind
rest.
of, it kind of just proves that something can have a nugget of a good idea in it, but without a good director, it doesn't necessarily come to fruition.
Yeah, the upsetting part about that movie is there's a bunch of artwork and stuff where it shows what Godzilla was originally going to look like, and he was going to look like Godzilla.
See, directorial choices.
Pretty much. I mean, he was gonna look a little different, but yeah, he was gonna look like Godzilla.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's really quite upsetting.
So comic books, eh?
But yeah. Either way, you're gonna enjoy it. And Jake, if just real quick to wrap up, our Godzilla talk, I am still waiting to come back and do a part 2 of our Godzilla chat. I'm just saying. Just putting that out there. Put it out there.
After he goes and watches this Godzilla movie, you'll have even more to talk about.
Exactly.
You can have the spoiler talk on that podcast.
Yeah, I mean, not that there's a whole ton to spoil. It's a Godzilla movie. I suspect you have a pretty
I
good
mean, I
idea of
guarantee
where it's
you have it.
going.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's no big like King Kong. Well, I guess maybe there. I mean, maybe there could be. There could be. I suppose. But a big twist if there was.
I can't say what is or what does or doesn't happen. Right now, as far as he's concerned, it's Schrodinger's Godzilla. Anything could or could not happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I've had a bunch.
He says I need a guest for April.
Hey, you know how to get in touch with my people. I don't have any people, but you know where to find me. Yeah.
He's my people.
I'm his people, but I'm me. You know where to get me, Jake. I'm always down. You just gotta tell me when and where, and I'll be there. We'll work it out.
You two handsome gentlemen will get this worked out. I'm sure.
Yeah. So sorry, we're talking about The Mask.
We were talking about The Mask.
The Mask. Yes, I still like that movie despite of my history with it. It's still funny and it still holds up. Some of the jokes are a little dated, but
to be fair, a lot of Jim Carrey's jokes have become dated.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It did get me thinking though, and yeah, this movie was you could see the thing is one of those movies where you could see the skeleton of it, of like this used to be an R-rated movie at one point, and you could tell based on its writing. And I saw there's a really good fan movie where they did basically a closer adaptation to the comics. Which, are you familiar with the Mask comics?
Very loosely. I know he's a lot more psychotic in it.
Yeah, the idea is it's sort of more of an anthology thing of like the mask passes from person to person, and the people it passes to are actually in that movie. So in the comics, he goes on the rampage that he does in the movie, except for it's more violent and he kills people. And then his girlfriend kills him, the Tina, the Cameron Diaz character, kills him and
Yeah.
steals the mask and she wears it. And then I want to say it's the cop, the one who's like Doyle, that guy.
Oh,
Yeah, he gets it and he goes on a rampage and he, or no, it might be Dorian. Dorian, the bad guy from the movie, gets it, and then the cop I think comes in and kills all the mob guys and Dorian, and he gets it, and he's the one who basically becomes a good guy, a twisted good guy, and then it passes to a shit ton of people after that, all of which I don't remember. But that's kind of the comic, and so I saw a fan movie where it was like, well, what if we did something that was closer to the original, and he's basically like he's still kind of funny, but he's like violent and crazy, and it's quite good. And it made me go, yeah, I'd watch like an R-rated, like he's like an anti-hero kind of, it's more violent and bloody kind of version of this. I'd watch that, but he still kind of has a kind of a sense of humor about it.
I mean, the one nice thing that I would say, because I would absolutely, there haven't been a lot of tellings. The Mask isn't one of those movie franchises which has had a billion. We'll get to your question in a second, there, Jake. Um, or Arete. Um, The Mask isn't one of those movies which has had 50,000 movies and is like overdone. So I absolutely think they could do like a remake or a retelling or a redoing of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, have it be more like less silly, more intense.
Hmm.
And I think it would absolutely work. Whereas other movies have like a firm nostalgia or like a firm like idea of what it should be,
Hmm.
because there's really only been one, because we choose to forget about the sequel movie of The Mask.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's a lot of room for things that you could
And
do
I'm
there.
like, don't.
Sorry. And then Rete Media does ask, any thoughts on the Crow remake?
Oh, I was gonna watch the. I haven't seen the trailer. I'm not super. I've seen it once, and I haven't seen any of its sequels, so I don't have a hard like nostalgia for it. I did hear that I think it's Stellan Skarsgård. He got really buff for it, and apparently it looks like it's way more violent, way more intense. So like I'll probably check it out eventually. I was actually gonna watch The Girl for this week, and then I opted to watch Sin City instead, and I regret it. I regret watching Sin City. I regret watching the version of it I watched because I'm going to talk about it later. It's bad. It was bad. That's spoiler alert for my thoughts on Sin City. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in checking out. I quite like that first one, and it sucks that that guy died while making it. That was the one where it's Bruce Lee's kid. They were making it, and he shot him in the chest.
Oh yeah, right. That's why I recognize the name. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's always been said that movie is cursed because every time they try to make it, it like falls apart or like it just doesn't work, or they make a bad sequel because there's like three or four sequels and apparently, or two or three sequels, and they're apparently all bad. Um, yeah, apparently it's quite a controversial franchise. So that when I
Int-
saw that was coming out, I was like, oh, they finally made it. They finally made that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's the guy who plays Pennywise. I think it's one of the Skarsgårds, one of them.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're
Cool.
sweet. They're the Swedish Hemsworths.
Um, but yeah, no, The Mask. I'd be interested to
Yeah,
see.
and don't make a
Oh,
sequel.
Reddit Media says Brandon Lee would have been a huge star man.
Yes, he would have been. Yeah. That was real tragic. That's usually when people talk about gun safety on set. That usually gets brought up in the conversation.
Yeah, that's why I know about it.
Yeah. Or Bruce Lee, who got punched I think it was Bruce Lee got punched in the stomach, and that's how he died. I think.
But no, with The Mask, I wouldn't do a sequel. I would do a straight reboot.
Yeah, no, don't do a sequel. Don't bring back Jim Carrey, please. They always talk about it, and I'm like, no, nobody wants
No,
that. You
the
think you
time has
want that?
passed.
Trust me, you don't want that.
The time has passed for that.
Yeah,
like, there's no
he'd come in and give
enough
like
of the,
half the energy.
yeah, no, enough of these reboot, requel, re bringing the old people back. No, let's just do a remake, a full remake,
Straight remake.
and
Anyway,
let someone else do a different energy.
what's your next rapid fire there?
My next rapid fire is I've just lumped them all together. I watched all three of the Men in Blacks because there's only three of them.
What about the fourth one?
And the fourth one doesn't exist.
There's
We don't know what
definitely
you're talking about.
there's definitely a fourth one.
There's only three of them, and they're fun. You know.
Yeah, they are fun.
So I'm going to ask two questions. Which do you think is the best, and which one is your favorite of the three? That there are only three.
I mean, the best one's the first one, and my favorite's the first one.
Interesting. I would say the best is the first. My favorite is, I actually think, the third.
Really, I don't mind the third one. There's a lot of really funny lines in that one that I still quote. One of my favorites is "Good plan, didn't work."
Yeah, or when he's talking about the arm and he's like, stop at it.
That's because
Jermaine
Jermaine Clement is amazing, and he's good in every movie he's in. He's never been bad in a movie. He's one of those guys. I love Jermaine Clement.
I respect the first one for because it started it all, and there was a lot in there that I like, but I just think that by the time of the third one, Will Smith is a stronger actor.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. The third one's also great because Josh Brolin is doing a pretty good Tommy Lee Jones, and the second one, I don't think the second one is anyone's favorite because it's just the first one again, except for J is K or K is J now. That's all it is.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
The only reason why I would say that I like the second one, or the only is I think the villain is a little stronger. I think she's more interesting than the bug guy. But
I don't know if Vincent D'Onofrio is the bug guy, so I don't know. I mean, he's creepy and he's memorable.
That's why I say I think but of the three, I think I like the third one the most.
Well, the third one's pretty good.
And there's only three.
There's only three. I don't remember the fourth one. I know I've seen it.
I don't think I've ever watched it. I just know that I think it has Chris Hemsworth in it.
It does. It's Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson.
Yeah. That name. I know that name. Anyways, that was my other rapid fire. What was your other rapid fire? Keep this train trucking on through.
I've got a few actually, but my next one is Kick-Ass. I watched Kick-Ass.
And,
I would have watched Kick-Ass too, but it isn't on anything, and I couldn't be bothered to torrent it. I mean, pay for it legally. And I remember that.
Rent it off Amazon.
Oh, I realized I forgot to include something. That's okay. The idea of people pretending to realizing that they could just dress up as superheroes if they want, but then dressing up as the lamest superhero. It's just funny to me. And I know I've never read the comic, but I know it's way better than the comic. I know the second one. Every time, what's his face? The bad guy in that one, who's Red Mist in this one. I'm not going to say his actual name, but
MacGuffin.
Yeah, the Mother Lover. I'll
say it. If you don't want to say it, I'll say it.
It's the Mother Lover.
The Mother Lover Jones.
Every time he does something bad in that second movie, where he's gonna assault the girl or kill the dog, or that's something that he actually did in the comics, but was so horrific they didn't want to put it in the movie, so they make a joke about it, where he's like, "I wouldn't kill a dog. That's sick, man." But yeah, otherwise they're just okay movies. They're pretty fun.
Arete Media says, "Don't sleep on Mystery Men."
It's funny. It's funny that I'll do it now. That's my second one. I have that as another one, my other rapid fire. I guess I'll just lump it together with Kick-Ass because it's effectively the same movie. My issue with Mystery Man Mystery Men is Mystery Men is kind of the same idea of just like regular people just deciding to be superheroes, but they have like the lamest superpower. So like William H Macy, he's the shoveler. Hank Azaria is this guy called the Blue Raja. Where there's a joke in it where I think he's trying to explain the fact that he's not being racist by wearing a turban, but he wears a turban, and his whole thing is he throws spoons. He throws cutlery, he throws forks and spoons. And then there's Ben Stiller. I don't remember what his superhero name is. Mr. Furious, I think is what it is, or Captain Furious or something. And his superpower is he just gets really mad. And then there's the one woman, the bowler. She's the second bowler, and her dad. She basically throws a bowling ball that has her dad's skull in it.
Wow.
And then there's the invisible kid, whose entire thing is he can only turn invisible when nobody's watching him, not even himself.
Arete Media says, "I shovel well. I shovel very well."
Yeah. That one, my only real issue with it that I didn't. I think it would have been funnier if
the spleen. He says the spleen, the bowler, the Sphinx.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about the spleen, and then there's Paul Rubens as the spleen, who his whole thing is he has really nasty farts, and they're eventually midway through the movie. They're like trained by this guy called the Sphinx, and he just says really weird. I think they're supposed to be like idioms, but he just has really weird sayings, and that's his whole joke. Like it's a funny movie. It's totally worth watching. My main thing with it is that they're all people with like the bit is that they're all guys who don't have superpowers, and they've just created these really lame. At a point, they're recruiting guys, and there's this one guy called the Waffler, played by Dane Cook, and the whole thing is he mashes people's faces into his waffle maker. That's his whole thing.
Oh boy.
And but there's an actual superhero in the universe, and the whole plot of it is he's so good at being a superhero that he's beaten all the supervillains, so all of his sponsors are leaving him because there's no more supervillains for him to fight, so he lets a supervillain out of jail so that he can fight him to get his sponsors back, and the supervillain has this plan to create this doomsday machine. And so it's this world where it's like there's all these superheroes, or there's like these superheroes who aren't really superheroes, but they're fighting an actual supervillain, and there's an actual superhero. So it kind of takes the fun or the wind out of the people who are pretending to be superheroes. Or it's like, well, and then at the end it turns out that the bowler actually does have superpowers. There's this bit where she keeps talking to her dad, the Skull, and you think that it's because she's crazy, and at the end you find out, oh no, she actually does have superpowers, and she can psychically control this bowling ball. And it kind of takes the joke out of it, where it's like it would be funnier if it was like these supervillains and superheroes who aren't really supervillains or superheroes, like they have no superpowers, but they just act like they do. To me, that's funnier, and I think that's why maybe Kick-Ass to me works a bit better in terms of that joke. It just didn't work for me as well in Mystery Man. That's not to say I don't love that movie. That movie's still very funny. I just don't think the joke worked for me as much in that movie as it does in Kick-Ass. And it's Kick-Ass is a Matthew Vaughn. I'm a Matthew Vaughn apologist. I even liked Argyle, and nobody liked Argyle. But yeah, so that was Mystery Man and Kick-Ass. Also, the funny thing about Kick-Ass 2 was how Jim Carrey made that movie. And then look, I'm not a pro-gun person by any sense of the imagination, but like he made that movie and went to promote it and said how nobody should watch it because of the gun violence. And it's like, dude, you had like plenty of opportunities to bow out of this, but you made the movie. You don't really have a leg to stand on here. Like,
yeah. No, not really. But to be fair, it could be a thing where he made it, and then like once he saw it in like on the screen, that's when he was like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
I mean, I guess I don't know, but yeah, that was Mystery Man and Kick-Ass. What's your next one?
My next one is The Kingsman.
Another Matthew Vaughn movie.
Where I didn't realize that was based on a comic.
Yeah.
Where he's training to be the spy, and you know the one with Samuel L. Jackson, the exploding heads.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good movie. I like that movie more than I like its sequel.
Nobody liked the sequel.
But
I like the sequel, but nobody liked the sequel.
some people might have liked the sequel. I don't know. I
It's
didn't mind
me.
the sequel. I just felt that the thing that made the first one work was him training to be a spy. And once he's a spy, it's like, well, I mean, that's kind of it. He's just
Yeah,
a spy now.
I just like Matthew Vaughn's visual style when it comes to filmmaking. So I don't think I've ever disliked one of his movies, including the bad ones. Like lots of people didn't like Kingsman 2. I liked The Kingsman. I think I'm one of the few people who like that one too.
Yeah, I didn't really like the Kingsman. I
No.
liked the first two Kingsman movies more than that. And when I got that, I was like, I don't want this. I want the third Kingsman.
Yeah, and apparently that's coming. They're making it. Um,
So that's one of mine. Go
oh,
on.
I've got Punisher Warzone. My
Oh, perfect. I
last,
have one more.
yeah, my last one is Punisher Warzone. I watched Punisher Warzone, and I forgot how much I liked that movie. I didn't forget how much I liked that movie. I liked that movie, but I like that movie in that like way of like when I was in my mid or early to mid 20s. I just love things that were explicitly violent. Although I think I watched that one when I was in my late teens. No, I had to have been at least 19, 18, 19, because that thing would have been 18A. But yeah, it's just graphically violent, absurdly violent in a way that Marvel stuff just isn't anymore. Um, the one thing about it that was really funny to me though was the end of the movie, sort of the summation of it, is that he's one of the good guys, which no, no, he's not. He's not one of the good guys. He kills way too many just defenseless people for him to be a good guy. Like there's a lot of times where it's like he's killing guys, and it's like, okay, yeah, maybe he's killing them in defense, or like they're shooting at him, so you know what, maybe they deserve it and they're bad people. But like one of the first of three things he does in this movie is snap some old lady's neck. Like just straight up, the lights go out, he drops down, he cuts a guy's head off, and then he snaps the woman who's sitting beside him's neck. And it's like, what did she do? She's just an old woman. Is it like a guilt by association thing? Where is his line? Like there's another moment in the movie later on where like he opens up a door and it's just this fat guy taking a shit, and he blows his head off. And he's like, what did that guy do? Like is it just guilt by association? How did he know? What makes him, is he psychic? Like it's so weird. And it's a movie that feels like a sequel to a movie that didn't happen, where like it has established relationships, and like there's a lot of times where it's like it feels like I'm supposed to know who this character is. Like they say a name and there's a pause, and you're like, that feels like a moment where I'm supposed to recognize this character, but I just don't.
It could be a thing where it's a Punisher character that you're supposed to know, and as not being a Punisher fan, you just don't know it.
I just don't know it. But yeah, if you like absurd, over the top, violent, it's like there's not much to think about. It's a fun movie in that regard, and it's one of those like, I know they keep trying to bring back the Punisher and they just can't figure out how. I think he's a character maybe you shouldn't bring back.
Yeah, I don't think I'm okay. I'm gonna bring this into the real world for a second. I don't think in a world and country where gun violence is very serious issue, that perhaps glorifying a gun-toting maniac is the proper course for Marvel to be taking.
Right, and also like,
Because let's be clear cut here. The Punisher is a gun-toting sociopathic. Like he's crazy.
No, he's absolutely crazy. Yeah. And there's so many moments where he's just like traumatizing this like little girl, or like he's blowing people's heads clean off. Like they're exploding. Like that girl's gonna need therapy.
Yeah. Maybe we just leave him in the past.
Like, oh my goodness gracious. It's like, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's my Canadian sensibilities shining through.
And there's a lot of moments where the cops are like, yeah, maybe he is the good guy. Like, no, he's not. He's not the good guy. It's really, but like it's also, the bad guys are so fun because they're like, because he's a bad guy, they have to be even worse guys. So they just wind up being like cartoonishly over the top evil in a way that, again, movies are just afraid to do.
That's funny.
Just afraid to have a bad guy who's just crazy. He's just evil because he's crazy. And I do think that like maybe comic book movies need bad guys who are bad just because they're crazy, for no other reason than they're just nuts.
That's fair.
What was your final rapid fire?
My final rapid fire, I'm gonna lump them both together. Um, it was going to be one of my picks, but I just don't have that much to say about them. So we've course corrected and picked another movie for one of my picks. It's the two, they're on Amazon. I don't even remember their names. They're the two Hellboy movies that are animated.
Yeah,
Because
I still
none of
don't
the no,
understand why. Oh yeah, you're right. You said because you couldn't
none of
find them on anything.
none of the live action ones were on like a streaming service that I had, and I couldn't be bothered to find other means of watching them. Um, and it's, you know, they're fine. In the one, they're hunting, and I think they're supposed to be like, maybe they both came on the same blue like
Yeah,
DVD or
they
like
did. Yeah.
or something, because like, yeah, they're both animated the same. They have the same voices, same people, same teams. The one, the mentor dude is played by John Hurt.
Yep. Yep.
Um, um,
He was the
and in the
mentor in the
one
movie.
in huh?
It's the voice cast. I'm pretty sure it's the voice cast from the movie, from the live action
Oh, is
rather.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would make sense. But in the one they're hunting vampires. In the other, they're hunting some other thing that I've already forgotten what it was, which is why this could not be one of my picks. Um, because that's pretty much it. Yeah, he's Hellboy. He fights a monster. He defeats the monster. He's Hellboy.
My thing with Hellboy is Hellboy's just never interested me. There's never been a Hellboy thing that I felt any sort of attachment to. Like I've seen the first two movies. I haven't seen the David Harbour remake, but yeah, none of it. Like the coolest thing I ever saw with Hellboy in it that I liked was when he was in, I think, one of the Mortal Kombat games, or was
Well,
it?
he was in Injustice 2. He was a DLC character.
Right, it was Injustice 2. That's what he was in. Yeah, that was it. That was it. I was like, that's the most interesting he's ever been to me. Otherwise, I've never really engaged with Hellboy. And I hear his comics are good. I've heard he's got good shit. I hear he's got.
I just
Um,
never really, yeah, resonated with him personally.
no, me neither. Me neither.
Um, but that's my last pick.
That's all the rapid fires.
That's all the rapid fires.
So let's move into main book reports. Jordan, as always, gets to go first. What is the first thing that you had seen
The
before?
first thing that I had seen before was a movie called The Adventures of Tintin, which is, for those who don't know, based on a comic book by Hergé. It had the same name. We grew up on the animated cartoon,
Absolutely, we did. Yeah.
and I had, at least I remember reading from the library when I was a kid, a few of the comics. Specifically, the one where they go to the moon is the one that I remember.
I have no memory of that.
Um, but the movie is based off of a couple of the story, like three of the episodes or whatever from the 40s, which is based on the pirate adventure and all that. Good movie. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I'm kind of sad that we never got more.
Yeah, is that's the one where it's the it's Bob Zemeckis, right? Or is it, no, that's Spielberg. It's Spielberg, right?
Directed by Spielberg.
Spielberg, yeah.
Screenplay. Fun fact. Screenplay. One of the writers was by Stephen Moffat.
It's like Stephen Moffat, Doctor Who, Stephen Moffat.
Let's find out.
Because
I just saw that. I just see the name here.
how, how do you spell it?
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Doctor Who, Stephen Moffat.
Yeah.
No shit, huh? He wrote it.
He's one of the writers.
He's one of the writers. Weird. That's weird. That I didn't
One of
know.
the screenplay writers. It's him, Edgar Wright, and Joe Cornish.
Really? I didn't know Edgar Wright
Yeah.
helped write this. That's so fascinating. I did not know that.
And apparently, on top of Steven Spielberg directing it, he also produced it, as well as Peter Jackson and
Uh,
Kathleen Kennedy.
oh yeah. We got Kathleen Kennedy
Wait.
as his producing partner.
Is there any other interesting
I didn't know that Peter
thing?
Jackson. I didn't know that he produced. That's interesting.
Yeah, apparently he produced it as well.
Because I it's
Production
that
companies. Production companies are Paramount, Nickelodeon, and a bunch of other ones there.
because that's from that Bob Zemeckis style of the Uncanny Valley of
Yeah,
animation.
which is funny because in the one scene where Tintin is getting, spoiler for this movie, in the one scene where Tintin is getting a portrait done, and the person turns the portrait around and it's in the same art style as the original cartoon and comic and
Yeah.
stuff, and it looks like he did, and I'm like, ah, that's a nice touch. I like that.
Yeah, and so they
But
so Tintin looks like the actor plays him, Jamie Bell. But the captain, for whatever reason, they chose to make him look like the cartoon. So the captain looks like the cartoon. So he's got cartoonish proportions and looks like a cartoon. But every other
yeah, his
character looks
big
like
nose.
yeah. So every character looks like a normal person.
No,
So
no,
he looks weird.
the detectives also look cartoony.
I suppose, yeah, that is true. But all the other people look realistic, so it just looks weird. They don't
For the most
mesh
part.
together. It's very strange. But there's a lot of really fun references to
To the comics and
yeah.
show.
Well, the way he fights, the way he fights has a certain style to it in the original, because it was always like meant to be like they always represented violence in that show as like fast. So like when he hits someone, it's just out of nowhere. It's like bang, just like out of nowhere. And the movie does a really good job capturing that.
It does a very good job of capturing the comic / cartoon / like all like it very much feels and made me feel like I was
Absolutely.
experiencing it again for the first time.
And Andy Serkis as the captain, he's so good. He's so good.
Oh, he's so good.
He's so good.
There's a lot to like about the movie, and it's very funny too, because as I was watching it this time, knowing that it was based off of 3 distinct episodes, and watching it as if it like you can see where each of the episodes would have ended.
Oh yeah.
Which or comics or stories or however you want to say it.
Tintin was really interesting because Tintin and Speed Racer as well. They were kind of the first cartoons to do multi-parters. Like cartoons don't do multi-parters because you didn't want to lose you didn't want a kid to tune in and be lost. So every episode has to have its own plot and beginning, end, and middle. It can't continue on for 3 or 4 episodes. So those shows were Tintin was ahead of its time in that regard, and that's why we love long form storytelling, because a lot of the cartoons we grew up were like they weren't afraid to have multi-parters.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Adventures of Tintin, which again I'm disappointed didn't turn into a franchise.
Yeah, I know, right? They really wanted it to, and you would think that it had Steven Spielberg behind it. You would think it would. Like it was surprising that it just didn't. I think it was if they had personally, my theory is if they had been closer to the original show and it wasn't so uncanny valley looking, I think it probably would have been more successful if it was more stylized.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sorry, I'm reading. There's some interesting behind the scenes stuff. This page is a long page, and I'm not going to go through it all. But what I will say is it had a budget of 135 million, and the box office was 374 million. So it's not like it didn't do well.
No, yeah, but I think it was really expensive.
135 million.
Yeah. So it did okay. You have to double that. When you're looking at a budget, you have to double it for marketing. So it's 123 million. So it's more like 250 million with marketing, which it was heavily marketed.
It got a lot of not really. It got a lot of nominations for awards. It got an Annie Award for Best Animated Effects in an Animated Production and Best Music in a Feature. And at the BMI Films and TV Awards, John Williams won the Film Music Award for it. It won quite a few awards, actually.
Oh. Anyway, anything else interesting that you have to say about The Adventures of Tintin?
Apparently, originally the second film was going to be based on Hergé's The Seven Crystal Balls and the Prisoners of the Sun.
Interesting.
Huh. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that movie. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. People who haven't seen it should go watch it.
Really should.
And start hounding the people that make this movie to make a sequel, because I want there to be a sequel.
I certainly think couldn't believe. I mean, yeah, Tintin is something that you could bring back. He's pretty timeless.
I think so. A lot of his stories you could bring back.
Yeah, have him be like a
blogger
or something.
I would love to have them do they go to the moon be one of the movies that they do. Like that'd be a lot of fun. Anyways, that's my pick.
They could bring it back and do a show. Do a Netflix show.
Oh, absolutely, they could.
10-episode Netflix show. What's the other one you had seen?
Next one that I had seen before was a movie called V for Vendetta.
Remember. the 5th of November, the
Well,
gunpowder treason and plot. I can see
sorry,
no
you were lagging
reason.
there for a second.
I said,
I can think of no reason. I can think of no reason. I can think of no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
no, I do it from the start. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I can see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. I did it. We did it in
That's I
one
can
go.
think of no reason.
Whatever. It's close enough.
Um,
Yeah, that totally
but oh
unrealistic
really?
movie that would never happen.
Okay, well, so it's a good thing I already on rapid fire had a Marvel because I did not realize that this movie was based on the 1988 to 89 DC Vertigo Comics limited
Oh yeah,
series.
yeah. V for Vendetta.
So this
Did you
I
not
didn't
know?
I
Uh,
didn't know it was DC.
yeah, it's by Alan Moore. It's funny. It's by Alan Moore, who also made the Mine, which is Watchmen. But yeah, that was the movie that basically got Watchmen created because it made so much money that they saw value in those DC Vertigo comics. But yeah, the comic is quite different. Obviously, you know it's based on a comic. I guess you just didn't know it was based on a DC comic.
Arete Media says V for Vendetta is one of my favorites. Watch it every year on November the 5th.
Ah, it's a good movie.
I mean, that's the perfect day. That's the perfect day to watch it.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
no,
artistry and
I
craft
knew it
work.
was based on a comic because I remember one time when I looked up V for Vendetta, it just like what came up was a picture of the Fox Max in comic book form, and that's when I kind of went down the rabbit hole of finding out that it was based on a comic. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was a DC
It's a
comic.
completely different comic. The story is like you find out more about V, I think. Because V, you find out that it's not V, but it's like 5. He's like the 5th experiment, or they're the 5th
You find you,
experiment.
you find that out in the movie.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I can't remember all of it, but it's apparently very different. The original comic is
Um,
very different.
Well, one of the things, and I'm not gonna dive too deep into the political aspect of this movie, even though it's a pretty major part of the movie. But because we don't really do politics here.
No.
Um, but I will say, living in the time that we live in the world that we live in, more than ever does the reality of this particular movie feels like it could be possible.
I mean, I mean, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's true. Let's talk about how this. Let's talk about the technical aspects of this. Let's change the subject just real quick. Let's just change the subject
Oh,
immediately.
we're just gonna skip right
Let's
past
just skip
that.
past all the political connotations. It's gonna no.
I did preface it with we're not gonna deep dive into that.
Um, but no, it is. It is a good movie. Like I say, Hugo Weaving. I think he does the voice. I believe it's funny you mentioned Hellboy because I don't know if Hugo Weaving is in the costume or I think Doug Jones might be. I can't remember. But yeah, all the performances are good. When they shave Natalie Portman's head, they actually shaved it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of forgot. This movie reminded me that I kind of like her as an actress. In recent years, that has been thrown into doubt in my mind. But it's like, oh yes, she is in things that I enjoy.
I mean, yeah.
Right? She can be capable of
She made 3 bad movies. It shouldn't haunt her for the rest of her career.
and yet it will.
And yet it will. Yeah, no, I like that movie. I love that. I love V. V's like one of my all-time favorite characters. He's just so memorable. I mean, obviously, people have used the Guy Fawkes mask for mischief.
Apparently, the film's story and style mirror elements from I'm going to butcher the name. Gaston Leroux's The Phantom of the Opera. V and the
Oh yeah.
Phantom both wear masks and hide their disfigurements, control others through leverage of their imaginations, have tragic past, and are motivated
Oh
by
yeah.
revenge.
The egg basket, bread in an egg basket or whatever, the dish that he serves her, not a real dish.
I mean, it is. It's in one of my cookbooks.
No, yeah, no, he created it, but technically it's not an actual French dish or whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Fair. Yeah. Pardon me. I feel like I have stuck in my throat.
I know, I feel really
Um,
phlegmy, so I got this water here.
but But no, it's a very good film. It's got some heavy topics in it. It's got things that I don't feel like we should discuss on here. And so, that being said, good movie. People who haven't seen it should watch it. We're gonna slide on past at this point.
Okay, so let's talk about. You know what? You know what? I'm gonna change up the format because I've been thinking about doing this instead of doing your haven't seen and have seen. We'll do the have scenes and then the haven't scenes, so it doesn't turn into one of us talking
To one of us ranting for like 30 minutes and the
Yeah.
other one going like,
So
yeah, I'm listening. I'm here.
I'm also here. So yeah, and you know what? It's my show. If I want to fuck with the format, I can do that. I have the creative control. I have the power. So the first one that I had seen before was Jonah Hex.
That's a cowboy movie.
That is absolutely cowboy. It's also a DC movie, and it's funny because it's not the movie. It's not the movie that began this, but it's one of the movies that began this because we used to do many years ago. We had a YouTube internet review show, and this was one of the episodes we did where we talked about it, and
Good times.
there's some poorly aged jokes in there. I will tell you that. But what's interesting is I was in my 20s. And I was really bad at articulating my opinions on movies. But in not so many words, I had an issue with the sound design. I thought the sound design was bad. And my biggest beef was...
It wasn't long enough.
It's too short.
You didn't like how short it was for some reason.
I didn't like how short it was.
Arete Media says, have you seen Cowboys versus Aliens? Surprisingly good. I think I have.
I did, yeah. I was a long time ago. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It. I know I've seen it. I watched it with a friend because that was one of those times I showed up late and I missed like the first 5 minutes of it. Or we showed up late and we missed like the first 5 minutes of it. And it was enough time that I had no idea what was going on for the rest of the movie. And I've never tried to rewatch it. That one's James Bond is in it, I think, if I remember correctly. And he gets
the actor or the character?
The actor.
Okay, I was gonna say
Daniel Craig.
That sounds like a very interesting movie. It's about cowboys, aliens, and James Bond is there for some reason.
Yeah, I know it was bad. That's all I remember. I remember thinking it wasn't very good, but to be fair, it was a while, and I've shoved a bunch of. Anyway, yeah. Jonah Hex. So yeah, the last thing I thought was that it was too short, and I had this idea in my head that all movies needed to be at least 90 minutes. Every movie should be at least 90 minutes. And I don't know if it's because I've watched enough 3-hour slog fests in the past 2 years. But man, a nice tight 80-minute movie was a refreshing breath of fresh air. But John, the ultimate question is, did I change my mind? Do I now love Jonah Hex? You're probably wondering right now.
Right? Did you? More importantly, Justin, was it long enough for you?
No. I hated this movie. It was bad. It was awful. It wasn't good. It was not a good movie. It was very bad.
But was it long enough for you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't long enough. And not because I think movies should be 90 minutes, but because this movie, it's not long enough and the sound design is bad. At points, the action sequences are so loud that you can't hear dialogue. Megan Fox is saying dialogue, and you can't hear a word she's saying. You're like, what? What? And they do this animated section, which we brought up in our original review, and that just kind of papers over his backstory, which is just kind of like, he was a Confederate soldier, bad guy, not because he believed in slavery, or but he just didn't like being told what to do, so he joined the Confederate, bad guy. And he, for reasons that you find out later in the film, because he killed the bad guy's son. The bad guy shows up and kills his family and brands him with his brand, and then just leaves. And then he somehow he nearly dies, and he somehow develops the ability to talk to the dead. And when he talks to the dead, when he touches people, they come back to life, and he can talk to them, but if he touches them for too long, they turn to sand.
As one does.
and the bad guy is a terrorist. He's an early terrorist and he wants to blow up America. And you find out later on the reason why he killed the bad guy's son was because the bad guy's son was attacking him, and Jonah Hex was trying to stop the bad guy from blowing up a hospital.
As one does.
And it's just a very, very bad movie. Jonah Hex is wearing Josh Brolin is wearing a prosthetic, so he just mumbles for like 90% of it. Megan Fox is a bad actress. All of her acting is wooden as fucking hell. John Malkovich is in this movie for some reason, and he's the bad guy. What's his face? Magneto. Not old Magneto. Michael Fassbender. Michael Fassbender is like in it and is just like comedically evil. He's this Irish guy who has face tattoos, and he's just there for some reason. And it's funny because there's a lot of setup for what I'm guessing is supposed to be his back. So at the end of it, he's beating the bad guy, and the president gives him this badge. He's like, "You could be America's sheriff," and then he pauses in a way that feels like it's once again a reference to like maybe in the comic books he was like America's sheriff and that was like his title, because he was clearly like a comic book superhero who had superpowers. So I'm guessing he was like America's sheriff and that was his superhero name. I guess, I don't know. This movie's not exceptionally clear about it. But my goodness, yeah, it wasn't a good Western. It's not a good superhero movie. It's just a bad movie. It's a bad movie that I kept trying to be like, maybe it's not that bad. No, it's bad. It's bad, Jordan.
Just bad, just not good.
And then the second movie I'd seen, which I guess kind of ties into your V for Vendetta, because I feel like there's a reference, or there's something I saw somewhere that says that there's a theory that the V for Vendetta universe is the future of the Watchmen universe. But anyway, I saw Watchmen. I rewatched Watchmen. I rewatched the agonizingly long 3-hour director's cuts. God, I hate director's cuts. We're gonna talk about how much I hate director's cuts later. But that movie just kind of made me be like, God, I kind of want to read the comic again. Like, I think this story is interesting. I really do. I think the movie's okay. I think the movie's good. I don't know who hasn't seen Watchmen. Watchmen, for those who haven't seen it or read it, takes place in an alternate 1980s where Richard Nixon is in the office for president for the third time, and there were superheroes and a bunch of costume superheroes, and they were forced to retire in the 80s, or forced to retire because of some sort of criminal act that was put into place so people couldn't be superheroes. And the world is America is on the verge of a war with Russia. Wow, that doesn't sound familiar. And there's a conspiracy. People are going around killing superheroes, and they're trying to figure out what the deal is. And there's only one superhero, and he's Dr. Manhattan, and he blows up a dude. And that's Watchmen. Without spoiling Watchmen, because I think it's you don't want to give away the big twist, because there is a big twist, and it's a big part of it.
Who watches The Watchmen?
He watches The Watchmen. And it's really funny because watching it, I could see all the stuff that led to his DC movies. Like, I could see all the proto DC stuff, like how he's like, oh, superheroes should just like the whole point of Watchmen is how superheroes suck and how they're not attractive or sexy or like something you want to be, or like people you want to be. They're gross, awful people. And this movie's like, yeah, but what if they were cool and like snapped people's bones and did like cool violence and like hurt people? And when you see like how they made Rorschach, you could just kind of see what would become his Batman. And it got me thinking when I was watching Punisher. I was like, you know what? I think they should let. I know how I said they shouldn't bring back Punisher. They should let, if they are gonna bring back Punisher, they should let Zack Snyder make a Punisher movie, because I think it would be suited for him. He could have like that violent, like superhero that can just do violence and be cool, and then he can make it cool looking.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Arete. Arete says, bro, V for Vendetta is the future of our universe. Lol.
That's
He,
true.
he said it. He said it, not me.
Yeah.
We were all thinking it.
If we were all thinking it, we just chose not to say it out loud. I mean, is it the future of what's happening now, or is it the present? Who's to say? Not me, not I.
Anyway,
Not me.
who watches The
Who
Watchmen?
watches the? Yeah, it's funny because Zack Snyder was on Joe Rogan being like, if Batman can't kill, he's irrelevant, and I'm just like, if Batman could kill, he's just the Punisher. He's just the Punisher in a bat suit.
Yeah,
It becomes
yeah.
decidedly less interesting. What happens if Batman killed the Joker? Well, there wouldn't be a Joker. That's what would happen there. It'd be decidedly less interesting if we just killed the Joker. But no, this movie still looks good. I'm one of those ones where I'm one of those people who's like, this is one of the few good Zack Snyder movies. He doesn't make a lot of good movies, but this is one of them. And if you remove yourself from the comic book, if you look at it as its own thing, and you're like, it's not an adaptation of a much better comic book, then it's a good movie.
Uh, oh, really? Arate Media says, fun fact about Watchmen, in the opening credits, if you look at the newspaper clip, you can see the original Night Owl saving Thomas and Martha Wayne and their
Yeah.
son.
Yeah, that's a theory. That's a theory that the Watchmen universe takes place in an alternate DC universe, where Batman doesn't become Batman.
Well, I mean, they later ended up crossing over with with
Yeah,
all that.
yeah,
So, who's to say what is who and where and what?
yeah. They did eventually do a sequel where it turned out that, I can't remember if it turned out that Doctor Manhattan created the DC universe or he like went into the DC universe.
Wasn't it that that Dr. Manhattan caused the New 52 explosion or
That's
something like
yeah,
that?
that's what it was. He was responsible for the creation of the New 52. And then at the end, he goes back to the Watchmen universe and creates essentially what is the Watchmen's version of Superman. So now the Watchmen universe has a Superman.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
apparently really bad and really convoluted. Um, and
I have never actually read the run. I just am aware that it
there's
exists.
that also yielded one of the worst DC storylines, the Three Jokers, which was also bad and went nowhere.
Which I was gonna say, I don't think they ever paid that off.
They did, yeah, they did a storyline, but they don't really explain it. Where it turns out that there was three Jokers. There's the Joker from The Killing Joke, then there's the Joker who killed Jason Todd, and then there's like the original Joker from the original Batman comics. And the implication is that he's the original Joker, and he's been creating Jokers for years. And I think it's like the Killing Joke Joker kills the other two Jokers, something like that.
Okay, then that's
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, it's apparently not very good, and it doesn't really pay off or explain anything because they realize they made a mistake. They're like, oh shit. Because anytime anyone tries to explain where the Joker comes from, it's never good. See
No.
earlier comments about the Joker movies. But yeah, that's what I had seen. I'd seen those before, and it was definitely interesting. It was like, oh, that was weird. Anyway, what's the first one that you hadn't seen?
The first one that I hadn't seen was the 1997 Spawn movie.
Spawn.
Which it's funny that you said movies that made you think about, because this one very much is like a combination of, like, if you took a little bit of Deadpool, you throw in a little bit of Venom, you toss in a little bit of, there was a third one that I thought of that I'm now forgetting, but a little bit of that third one that I thought that I was thinking of that I can't remember, and you get Spawn. Hellboy, that's what the third one was, because of the demons and the hell and everything. And you end up with Spawn, a movie which is fine.
Yeah, that's what I remember about it. It's fine. It's got some really poorly dated CGI.
Oh, yeah, and Martin Sheen is there for some reason, and that always throws me off when you get a younger Martin Sheen, and it's like, oh yeah, he used to not be old.
Yeah. John Leguizamo is in it. He's the clown.
Yeah, and this was one of the first times that an African American actor portrayed a major comic book superhero.
Yep, yeah, it was a big deal for that. And I think he's a black character. He's in the comics. I think he's black. The character is black.
I couldn't say for that, but
that movie's funny because it's like
Apparently, Spawn creator Todd McFarlane makes a cameo appearance as a homeless man.
Oh,
Characters of Sam and Twitch appear in silent cameo appearances portrayed by uncredited stand-ins.
yeah.
I'm guessing those are characters.
I'm guessing. Yeah, he Spawn's one of those characters. That movie in particular is one of those ones where he's cooler than the movie he's in. Like it feels like he needs to fight and punch a thing. Like he needs a scene where he can just like punch things, and he doesn't really get that in that movie, from what I recall.
It feels like a movie that's like it was made before its time kind of scenario. Like the technology wasn't there to do what they need to do to make this character cool.
Yeah, because apparently
Like
there's
I
a
like like I believe in his comics. I believe that he's a really cool character who can do a lot of things, and they just couldn't show that on screen
yeah
properly.
in the yeah, he looks cool in that movie. He looks cool. There's a really cool shot I remember of him like where he's doing a Spider-Man thing where he's like sitting on top of a building or whatever, and like the cape is like flowing around him, and it looks really badass.
There's too many scenes of him not wearing his mask.
Yeah, because they can't emote with the mask on, which we now know you can emote with a mask on, but America thinks you can't emote with a mask on.
And that's where I say, like, if they made a Spawn movie today, for example, I feel like they could do what they wanted to do
Yeah,
back then.
he's a character I can't believe didn't come back in like 2011 with like a bad movie. You know what I mean? Like a bad, like it looks
Yeah,
good and we're like, oh, this is fun, but it's not very good kind of movie.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like it's weird that they're still there. I mean, they I think there's a reboot in the books. Like they're still making it. They keep saying they're gonna make it.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
but yeah,
Um,
it's the one thing I remember that
that
movie. I thought it was scary when I was a kid, and then I rewatched it as an adult, and I was like, yeah, it's just like an early 2000s bad superhero movie.
yeah,
Like
yeah, it really
it's
is.
like the definition of a pre MCU superhero movie. It's like, yeah, this is what we were working with.
Um, and like I said, it's fine, and apparently it didn't do very well.
No, that doesn't
Uh,
surprise me. It also was crazy
but
expensive.
yeah, it was 40 to 40. It had a budget of 40 to 45 million, which in 97 is that's a lot of
That's a
money.
lot of money.
Um, and its box office only did 87.9 million.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was a big old bomb.
Uh, but I don't have much else to say about it. It's not a very complicated movie, and there's not very much to talk about it. Costume looked cool. Um, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's
It's
fine.
fine.
It's
It's
fine.
fine.
I just remember, yeah, I
Um,
just remember it's like, yeah, he's not doing enough Spawn stuff. He walks around, yeah, you're right, with the mask off too often.
Yeah,
Uh,
like the problem is that it's supposed to be an origin movie. So for any origin movie, half the movie they can't know how to use their powers.
yeah,
Really, if there had been a Spawn 2, which it was never going to get because it did poorly, but if there had been a Spawn 2, that would have been where you got to see a lot of the cool powers and stuff. Because then he would have known how to use his powers. They could just jump into him using the power. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly, yeah, exactly.
um.
Um,
So my other one, that's all I have to say about Spawn, unless you have anything else you want to say.
no, other than there's an animated movie that's apparently way better, where it's Keith David. Keith David is Spawn, and apparently it's quite good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, so my final pick of the week, the one that I haven't seen, which I have seen as of this morning, is called Nimona. It's a 2023 animated American animated science fantasy film,
Academy
and
nominated as one. That was one of the ones in Best Picture for Best Animated for last year.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, did not know that. It was based on the 2015 graphic novel of the same name by N.D. Stevenson.
Oh yeah.
Um, um, what I like about the movie, so I'm not going to do a full rehash of it all. I always love a good like a movie where it's like it's science fictiony like laser stuff, but for some reason they've kept the aesthetic of medieval times,
Yeah, I know.
which
I love
which
those.
I love when you get things like that where it's like two polar opposite things like being put together, and it's just it for me it works. It's cute. The main hero. ends up with another fellow, another dude, and they're really cute together. And I like that the him and his partner, the partner girl Nimona. I like that they don't go they end up together and they live happily ever after and la 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 la. No, this movie is a lot. There's a lot of metaphors, a lot of visual imagery, which like calls back to the metaphors of like things that are happening in the plot. So like for example, spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, this entire castle, like this entire city, lives within these walls, and they're hiding from the monsters that are outside the walls. And the girl is a like the girl that partners up with him is a monster who can shape shift, and it's all about her letting her walls down so that she can, like, her and the main guy can become closer. And it's a metaphor for the city and the people letting their collective, like the literal, like walls of the city down so they can see the beauty of the outside world. There's metaphor, metaphor, metaphor. It's cute. It's good. There are points in it which are not surprising, and very much follow the point. Like the like, so for example, um, the point of the movie is that the main dude is trying to like prove his innocence. He's been framed for murdering the queen. He didn't actually murder the queen. There's the trainer girl or the trainer lady who like trains all the knights. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, so it was definitely her.
Yeah, well,
And
sure.
the only question that there is like is the person, like the love interest that that our guy is into, is he also in on it, or is it like, no, he's not in on it and he's innocent? But no, as soon as I saw the trainer lady, I was like, oh, it's her. It's
Yeah.
her. It's always her. She's like the Jafar.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
way it's not gonna, like she's too nice. She
Yeah.
comes across as too helpful, and like the point is that our main hero is like the first citizen, like the first normal person that's allowed to become a knight.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, no, obviously it's following like the plain route of like, this chick thinks that he's too low blood and he shouldn't be allowed to, and yada yada yada. And you know what? I don't care. I like it. It works for me. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's basic. It hits my basic bitch needs. I get that, but I like it.
Yeah. I mean,
And
hey.
you said you've seen it, right? Do
Yeah.
you agree with that? Like, it's by the numbers. Like, it's not.
I didn't know it was based on a comic book though.
Yeah, according to the old internet, it is. And if you
Hmm.
look it up, it is. And the characters look vaguely similar to what they do in this.
Oh. Well, all right. All right. Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, I watched it because it was free on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, it was one of the best animated movies. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I was like, yeah, it's cute. It's got one of the Try Guys in it.
Oh, interesting.
Eugene.
It does?
Yeah, he's the boyfriend.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that explains why he sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So here's a little bit of background information that I just found out about. Originally, it was a production of Blue Sky Studios.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It was originally going to be released in 2020, but then when Disney bought 21st Century Fox, Blue Sky, it got delayed multiple times, and then it got canceled when Blue Sky got closed. So it wasn't going to come out. And then Annapurna Pictures revived the project,
Yeah.
and it came out under DNEG Animation and Netflix.
Interesting. Interesting. Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
so it got saved, which is good because it was a very good movie, and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I immediately knew. I could immediately tell that Nimona was Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Are there any other names in here that I recognize? No, other than Eugene. Which, yeah, no. Now that you've said that, I absolutely hear that. What was its budget? It doesn't say. That's a shame. I would have liked to know that. Anyways, that's all. That's what I have to say about that. I like the animation on it. It's got that nice mix of like 2D and 3D.
Yeah.
Like the Paperman style animation. which I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
And there's just some genuinely funny moments in it. It's good. It's a good movie. Anyone who hasn't seen it, I recommend watching it.
I'm pretty sure it's free on YouTube. I think it's free on YouTube. Pretty sure. No excuse not to.
I can't speak to that. I don't know if that's true, but still a good movie.
So stuff I hadn't seen. The stuff I had seen. Okay, let's start off with the one that I didn't hate. I watched Sin City, and here's the thing, Jordan. Here's the thing. I can't stand director's cuts. I can't stand it. Put the movie out that you're gonna put out and be proud of it. Don't just okay. So I tried to download Sin City, right? And when I'm watching these movies, I like to read about them so I know a little something about them. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm reading it, and the way it's laid out in the Wikipedia article is not the same as the movie I'm watching. And I'm like, what the heck? And so then I eventually learned that I'm watching the director's cut. I'm watching the extended cut. And the extended cut is very, very bad. Okay? For anyone who has seen Sin City, this is my question to you. Is the original theatrical cut worth seeking out? Because this one, but basically you can tell that... Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Sin City is a series of vignettes about a city. It's Sin City, and it's like a neo-noir, like detective story where everyone talks like this. They don't talk all gravelly.
So it's like Cyberpunk 2099.
Yeah, but think like 1940s cop. It's like no, more like LA Noir. More like LA Noir.
Okay.
Got it. Black and white, everyone talks like this, where it's super serious, and every line is said super seriously, and everything's in black and white, and it's all super serious. And it was kind of cool.
I probably wouldn't have liked it then.
I don't imagine you would have, no. It's very stylized, and it's kind of cool, because there's moments when there are colors, so like, basically it's separated into various vignettes, and the idea is it's not one straight narrative. And the original theatrical version of this, it was very clear to me that it would bounce amongst this vignette. So it opens with, it's a Bruce Willis is a guy, and he saves a girl, from these bad guys who hurt little girls in a way that I won't describe. And he goes to prison for it and gets blackmailed into taking the blame for it. And yeah, he comes out of prison, and it turns out the girl's now 19, is in love with him, and it's really weird because he saved her and knew her when she was 11, and it seems like he's grooming her. And there's a bad guy who's chasing after them that he's yellow. So everything is black and white, and this guy's just yellow. And it looks cool. It looks cool seeing like this yellow bad guy up against this black and white like environments, whatever. And then there's a scene later on where the guy's driving this car, and the car's like bright red, and it looks cool. But the version of it I watched has been like sliced up, so like the Bruce Willis part is in two parts that it's like separated amongst the movie, but they've cut the two parts and put them together, and then there's just credits. So like I'm watching this movie, and in 40 minutes come in, and then it's credits, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm watching it some more. It's like a 2-minute segment, and then again it's 40 minutes into this movie, and it shows the title card. It's like Sin City. So it's very clear that segment of it was originally
at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning. And like various characters pop in and out where it's like, oh, you're supposed to like obviously meet them earlier in the movie, so that like this segment was clearly before the second half of the Bruce Willis bit, where in the second half of the Bruce Willis bit, you find out she's the same little girl from the beginning of this Bruce Willis bit. So she shows up in this one segment that's clearly supposed to be after it, so it doesn't make any sense, so it's now incomprehensible. Like little hints to the overall narrative of the thing are now all mashed up to smash these individual vignettes into one vignette, and it does it like sequentially.
Sounds like you're watching a shit version of a movie that like would otherwise be good.
Yeah, it was like it's a movie that was cut up. It turns into more of a show. It's a bad movie. Like it's an okay show. Some of the stuff is like kind of interesting. Like there's a bit where like there's the last vignette. where there's bits where they introduce characters. They're like, okay, yeah, these are interesting characters for one of them. Like if you did one of these guys as a movie, like there's this one kind of interesting bit towards the end with like the last vignette where it's like, there's this guy, he's hassling the waitress of this like neutral zone kind of bar or whatever, and he ends up getting killed, and they find out he's a cop, and it basically violates this truce that the prostitutes and the cops have, that the prostitutes can run their own part of the city. They don't get controlled by like the gangs or the mobs or anything, and the cops aren't allowed to like sleep with any of the prostitutes so long as they don't kill any cops. They just let the cops go, like they send them on their way, but they don't kill them, and the truce remains. So they accidentally end up killing this cop, and so it violates the truth, and it kind of turns this like these interactions between like the mobsters and the prostitutes kind of turn into this almost like it's like modern concepts of like or modern like things like mobsters and like and all that, but it's treated with like the attitude of like a fantasy story. So like they're almost like fantasy style factions, like, oh, these are the prostitutes and these are the mobsters, and they've got their own kind of fantasy style kind of rules. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. It represents these presents these ideas in kind of a different way, as opposed to what you're usually used to seeing them. But it's like one small part of this otherwise jumbled mess of and like I said, maybe the director's cut or maybe the theatrical cut is better, but yeah, it was bad. It was like, this is bad. This is almost incomprehensible.
Sounds bad.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like it says extended, but it's only extended in the sense that there's credits. There's 4 credits in this movie, and they're the same credits every time. It's just out of nowhere. It's like ending credits.
That sounds like a special kind of hell.
Yeah, and it's not. It's like, yeah, this probably would have been better as a show. Like there's a sequel that I've heard is also not very good. But like people said that this movie was good, and I'm like, it's not good. It's a bad movie, and it's got a lot of there's like it's got good parts, I would say, individual parts, but like Mickey Rourke is in it as this guy who I don't even know what his deal is, but he did like murders so many people and like disassembles them, and he's kind of interesting. Elijah Wood is like a cannibal. Is a cannibal, and he's really good. Like there are a lot of good individual performances, but it's like it's one of those things where I couldn't tell if it was meant to be a parody or satire, because characters talk in such a way that like humans don't talk like this. Nobody talks like this. Like I don't get. Anyway, that was Sin City, a movie I've been told was good but wasn't. And then next, a movie that I was told was bad, and it was bad. It was a very bad movie. That was Madam Web. I watched Madam Web, Jordan. It's based on a comic book character.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
It's technically based on a comic book character, and I needed to get through all my other stuff, Jordan, so I could spend a very long time talking to you about Madam Web. Because Jordan,
how did Madam Web hurt you, Justin? Show on your brain, show the bad touch area.
I mean, it's just everywhere. It wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop. It's incredible because you're watching it, right? And you're like, there's no way it can possibly be as bad as people are saying it is. And you're watching it, and you get about 3 minutes into it, and you're like, wow, it is. It is as bad as people say it is. Like, number one, there's no superhero stuff in it. Like, the only time that any superhero people wind up in superhero costumes is there's a very brief scene at the end where they're all wearing the costumes, and the bad guy has these consistent visions of the girl showing up and killing him in costume. That's it.
You mean evil Spider-Man?
Right. Okay. So, evil Spider-Man. Just to start off with, there's no rhyme or reason for him to look like Spider-Man. There's no rhyme or reason. He just has a costume that looks like Spider-Man. Because number one, this movie takes place in 2003. And it really, 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 really wants you to know that it takes place in 2003. Because it constantly needle drops and makes references to the fact that it's just song after song after song from 2003. The bad guy, he doesn't say a single line of dialogue that was actually recorded on the day. Like every time he speaks, none of his dialogue matches up to his lips because he's clearly been ADR'd in after the fact. Um, the dialogue is bad and awful and stilted. Like regular people once again don't talk like this. There's a bit where Adam Scott is in this movie and he's playing Uncle Ben, but at one point the fact that he was Uncle Ben was clearly supposed to be a twist. Like it was supposed to be a reveal that got revealed later on in the movie because early like they keep like basically a plot point of this movie is she goes to Peter Parker's baby shower. Like she works with Uncle Ben as a paramedic, and she gets invited to his sister's baby shower. But they don't refer to them by last name for most of the movie. She's just like, oh, Mary, this is Mary, my sister Mary, and she's pregnant, and your dad and her husband Richard is out of town, and he's Ben, and he's gonna be an uncle. And clearly at one point, it was going to be like, oh, who is this guy named Ben? Like it was going to be this twist. It was going to be this gag, this joke, which is kind of clever, right? Where it was going to get at the end, she was going to the baby because a part of the climax is they're protecting the baby from the evil Spider-Man, who wants to kill the girls because they're going to kill him in the future, and that's it. He just and they can't. Sometimes police can't see him. Like there's a point where he's crawling through the subway, chasing after them, and then the cops are like, "Oh, Madam Web is the one who's kidnapped these girls." But they're like, "But didn't they see the spider guy?" No. But anyway, so there's this whole running thing of like they're like, "Oh, there's Ben. He's Ben." But clearly in one of the passes, people weren't getting the fact that he was Uncle Ben, because they've ADR'd in a line early on where she just straight up calls him Ben Parker. So in case you couldn't figure out that it was Uncle Ben and it was this kind of fun, clever reference, they just straight up call him Ben Parker, completely ruining what is otherwise kind of a clever joke. It's like, oh, that's kind of clever.
Yeah, clearly the average person wasn't getting that it was supposed to be Ben Parker.
And at one point, it's very evident that this was supposed to take place in the Raimi Spider-Man universe because you see the Daily Bugle, someone's reading a Daily Bugle, and it's the Sam Raimi version of the Daily Bugle, but they've cut out all references to Spider-Man. Like I'm guessing there's a line where like I don't think this always took place in 2003, because there's a line I think that this was going to take place around Spider-Man, because at one point someone references how New York has gotten weird lately, a reference to the fact that there might be superpowered people, but again, they cut out all references to superpowered people. It's bizarre. Like it's like, yeah. It really thinks there's gonna be more of these in a way that's hilarious and like unnecessarily confident, weirdly overconfident. It's just, yeah, it's astonishing. Like I say, none of the bad guys. He was in a completely different movie. He doesn't say any of the dialogue that he recorded on the day, which makes me wonder what this movie used to be. It's the kind of movie that, like, you could tell this is like version 5 of the movie, and it's been cut up so badly it doesn't make any sense.
So what you're saying is it's an Ant-Man 3.
Yes and no.
Where it's a Frankenstein movie, which has been torn apart and turned into a completely different movie.
Yeah, but that Ant-Man 3 isn't that. Ant-Man 3, the ending is that, but the rest of that movie is fairly coherent. This is not that. No, this is more like I'm gonna think of something later, but no, it's not quite like Ant-Man. But yes at the same time. Yes, but no. Yes, but no. And yeah,
it's a more extreme version.
Yeah, like it's just I had more specific criticisms.
It's hard when you're put on the spot.
I know, but it was horrid. Yeah, I was shocked by how bad this movie was. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not. That's hyperbolic. That's still probably A Birth of a Nation. That's still probably the worst movie I've ever seen. But it's definitely, yeah, I see what people mean. It's incredible. Like I just what I don't get is like why they keep doing this. It's like that thing for Breaking Bad where it's Jesse being like they can't keep getting away with it. But it's like,
can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah, I was blown away by how like the spider people all look like Spider-Man. Again, for no reason, because I'm guessing at one point he was in this movie, or there was a reference to him in this movie, or like Spider-Man, you can feel it's like the Venom movies where you can feel his presence, but he's clearly been like scooped out of it.
Yeah, which makes no
It's
sense
just
to me.
like, why did you put these references in the first place if you were just gonna? Yeah, these movies are bad. I'm so interested to see what happens with Craven, because Craven is also gonna be bad, but at least that one will be violent, so it'll be entertaining to watch. But that's it. That was the comic book movies. I watched two bad ones. They were bad. They weren't good movies. Um,
I
yeah.
had a little bit of good, a little bit of okay, a little bit of eh.
Um, but with that, we're gonna do the assignment. We're gonna do the assignment for next week. And what is the
Hit,
assignment gonna be for next week? You know
hit,
what? Let's do.
hit
Let's
me.
do.
Hit me with it, baby. Hit me. Come on. What is
Um,
it?
well, we did 60s and 70s, right? We did the 60s and 70s. So let's move this up. Let's do the 80s and 90s. Let's do the 80s and 90s. What decade do you want? Do you want the 80s or 90s?
I'll let you choose.
I'm gonna take
I chose last. I chose last time. This time I'll let you choose.
uh God, I don't know. You know what? I'll do the 90s. I'll do the 90s.
All right, then I get the 80s.
You can have the 80s. So that's next week. Next week is the 90s. We're going to the 80s and the 90s. Tubular Turtles references, 80s references.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
90s. We're
yeah.
referencing the 90s. That's next week. Look
It
forward.
it's totally tubular.
Look forward to that. But with that, thank you once again to both of our sponsors, Susan from Flight Center and Trophy Smack, for reluctantly sponsoring this video. I don't know if it was reluctant. That was a joke. Thanks to them. Thanks
Thanks
to
for
to
thanks for humoring us.
thanks to Jake for stopping by. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, you can, as always, you can follow me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. Come check me out there. Jordan, where are you, Jordan?
I do Minecraft Mondays on Twitch at Zethgore187.
And you can always contact us via the Discord or via email. If you're gonna send messages to these places, don't make it weird. Please don't make it weird. Other than that, this has been another episode of the Spur Moment podcast. This one was successful. No tech issues.
Woo!
Ooh, yeah. We'll see you guys.
Discord finally got their shit together.
Yeah, next week, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Bye.